On a cold November night in 1989, the world held its breath as history unfolded before its eyes. A concrete symbol of division crumbled, and a long-separated people rushed toward unity and freedom. The night of November 9, 1989 was like any other in East Berlin, gray, cold, and oppressed. For nearly 3 decades, the Berlin Wall had stood as an insurmountable barrier, dividing families, friends, and a nation. Constructed in 1961, the wall was the ultimate symbol of the Cold War, a stark reminder of the ideological clash between communism and democracy. Its presence loomed large, a daily reminder of the limitations on freedom and the iron grip of the East German regime. The roots of division. The wall's origins lay in the post-World War II geopolitical landscape. Germany was divided into 4 occupation zones controlled by the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union. Berlin, despite being deep within the Soviet-controlled East Germany, was similarly divided. As tensions between the Soviet Union and the Western Allies grew, the ideological rift between East and West deepened, culminating in the construction of the Berlin Wall. Its purpose was clear: to prevent East Germans from fleeing to the West, seeking freedom from the repressive communist regime. The winds of change. But the winds of change were blowing across Eastern Europe. Earlier that year, Hungary had opened its borders with Austria, creating a breach in the Iron Curtain. East Germans, eager for freedom, had begun fleeing to the west through Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and other neighboring countries. Protests erupted in East German cities, demanding reform and greater freedoms. The pressure on the East German government was mounting, and something had to give. The fateful press conference. On the evening of November 9th, a seemingly routine press conference took a historic turn. Günter Schabowski, an official from the East German government, announced changes to travel regulations, allowing East Germans to apply for visas to leave the country. When asked when the new regulations would take effect, Schabowski, flustered and unsure, replied, "As far as I know, effective immediately, without delay." This offhand remark set off a chain reaction. The people's response words spread like wildfire. East Berliners, stunned and skeptical, began gathering at the checkpoints along the wall. Thousands of people converged on the crossing points, demanding to be let through. The border guards, unprepared and overwhelmed, were caught off guard. Unsure of how to respond and receiving no clear orders, they eventually opened the gates. A roar of triumph and disbelief filled the air as East Berliners poured through the checkpoints, greeted by their West Berlin counterparts. Tears, laughter, and hugs replaced the years of tension and fear. Strangers embraced, families reunited, and friends long separated by the wall found each other once more. The destruction of the wall. As the night wore on, the wall itself became a target. People armed with hammers and chisels began chipping away at the concrete, eager to destroy the hated symbol of division. The air rang with the sound of hammers striking stone, a symphony of liberation. By morning, sections of the wall were reduced to rubble, and the once impenetrable barrier was now just a crumbling relic. The aftermath and legacy. The fall of the Berlin Wall was more than just the destruction of a physical barrier. It was the collapse of an oppressive regime and the birth of hope for millions. It signaled the end of the Cold War and the beginning of a new era of unity and freedom in Europe. The jubilant scenes of that night were broadcast around the world, inspiring those still living under oppression and reminding everyone of the power of human resilience and the longing for freedom. Personal stories and collective memory. The night of November 9, 1989 is etched into the collective memory of those who experienced it firsthand. Stories abound of families who had been separated for decades finally reuniting. Friends who had grown up together but had been torn apart by the wall embraced in tearful reunions. Strangers shared their joy with each other, united by a common yearning for freedom. One particularly moving account is of a young woman named Anna, who had not seen her fiancé, Michael, since he fled to the West in the early 1980s. That night, Anna stood at the Bornholmer Strasse checkpoint, anxiously scanning the crowd. When she finally spotted Michael, the years of separation melted away in an instant as they ran into each other's arms. Their story, like so many others, symbolized the triumph of love and the human spirit over oppression. Global impact. The fall of the Berlin Wall had far-reaching implications. It was a catalyst for the eventual reunification of Germany, which officially took place on October 3, 1990. It also accelerated the collapse of other communist regimes in Eastern Europe, leading to the end of the Cold War. The images of jubilant Berliners tearing down the wall were broadcast worldwide, becoming iconic symbols of the era. Leaders from around the globe responded to the events with optimism. U.S. President George H.W. Bush remarked, "This is a great victory for democracy and freedom. The wall's fall is a testament to the unyielding spirit of the people of East Berlin." Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, whose policies of glasnost and perestroika had paved the way for greater openness in the Eastern Bloc, expressed hope for a new era of cooperation and peace.